Susan Barker. Okay. Okay. All right. Thanks. Yep. Bye. That's right. No, it's no problem. Listen, it's either this or watch a sappy Christmas movie on Lifetime. Okay. Okay. Bye.
Uh-oh. Okay. Hi, Dan. Can you enable the video?
Let's see. I think
We're gonna learn how to do this, Dan.
that's okay. I just have to. Okay, you should be able to start your video now.
Got it. Okay, thanks.
There you go.
Great.
Okay, so let me put this on YouTube. So give me 1 second.
Hi,
Hi, Ellen.
hi, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Thank you. Hi.
Okay, good.
Okay, we should be good. Let's see.
The other camera went out. Wendy?
I'm here, just still sitting at the dinner table, so
Oh, yeah, I
I'm here.
thank you.
Hi.
Yeah, the problem with these meetings is that you get to see my kitchen. Looks more and more like a dorm room with each passing week.
I'm gonna mute myself for a few more minutes.
Okay. Well, we don't have a quorum yet, so it's okay.
Right, I think you do because Marlene's here, and I think you.
Oh, Marlene is there. Oh, wait, I should go and. Oh, Marlene, hi. Do you want to unmute? Marlene?
Okay,
Hi.
hi.
Well, we actually do have a quorum now. 1, 2, 3, 4. Wendy, are you listening? Okay, Sean says he's coming. I don't know about Joe. Gail might be late. Shall we open the meeting
Sure.
or is the quorum? Okay, it's, Dan, I'm gonna get this right this time. It is 7:33. We're starting. And actually, before we even get started, I want to thank Nora and Dan for their heroic,
Sally and Sally.
and Sally for their heroic rushing around to get this on. Because otherwise we'd all be hanging out in cyberspace waiting for it.
We would.
And then the next thing I want to do is introduce and welcome Ellen Axelrod, who is our new committee member, and who was at the tree walk in, was it October? Which was a beautiful day, and I remember having really a delightful conversation with you and Nora as we walked around. So I'm really glad you joined the committee.
Well, thank you, and I'm really glad that this worked out for me too. This is
Good.
exciting.
Great, great. We, you live at the Avalon?
Yes,
Did you say you had just recently moved to the village?
yes, I lived in the northwest corner of Connecticut, not too far from the Berkshires,
Oh.
about in July,
Uh-huh.
about 6 months. Yeah.
Great. Well, thank you for moving here and jumping right in. Okay, the first item is the approval of the November minutes.
You have to call the meeting.
I'm
You have
sorry,
to call the meeting to order first.
I did.
No, you just said the meeting was. Just said the time.
Oh.
You have to.
I mean, I have to
First.
vote. Okay, I
Yeah.
call the meeting to order.
Seconded.
Okay.
Oh, shoot.
You've thrown my perfect rhythm. The
I
minutes.
apologize.
You got comments. That's all right. Thank you for keeping me in good stead with parliamentary procedure. Marlene, you got comments from me and you got them from Gail. Have you got them?
Yes, and I sent them all in to Sally, and so they should be the updated version.
Okay, you didn't circulate them?
No, I did. I initially circulated them to everybody.
Good try. Okay. Anyway, I have seen them. Has everyone else, are there any other changes or comments on the minutes? No.
Not from-
In that case, someone want to move to approve them? Wendy, I think that's you.
Move to approve.
Ellen, do you mind seconding, even though you just got here?
Okay, I second.
Thank you. When 4 people makes a quorum, it's fairly tight. Okay, thank you. Minutes have been accepted.
But at least you have a full committee now, so that's good.
We do. Oh yeah, I know. Great. Because when we had 5 members and we needed 4 for a quorum, it was tight. Okay, comments from residents. Are there any residents present who would like to comment? Dan, is there anyone hanging around?
The only residents at the meeting are the people on the tree committee and trustee Lucas.
Okay, thank you. So no comments. Correspondence, we've had quite a bit. The first correspondence, which is attachments 1A, B, C, were from 4 residents. One was actually by telephone on Brook Street, but from 4 residents who are very eager to get their new trees and wanted to know, I guess in the month of November, whether we were still planning to plant them. We are. The answer is they were supposed to go in yesterday when everyone was running around with blizzards. So they will go in soon. The utilities have been marked out. It was really expected that they would be delivered and put in. Several of them, though, actually are receiving crab apples, which are not going to be sourced from the same vendor. And I don't know. I asked Jerry, but he didn't have time to answer me. Dan, do you know? The crab apples and the hawthorns, do you know where they're coming from and when they're coming?
I think we're going to order them from the company that we purchased trees from in, I think it was spring of 2019.
Okay.
I can't remember the name of the company though.
Okay, that's all right. They have been ordered.
I believe so, but I can confirm that.
Yeah, I'd like to know that, and also when to expect them, because these people were expecting them like yesterday.
Okay.
And I'd like to be able to tell them.
Okay.
Thank you. Spring 2019. Then we also had some correspondence from the resident at 303 Jefferson. This started right after we went into lockdown, and apparently some brush had been removed along the Merrimack River, right by the park. That's the one that goes by the parking lot to the train station. Brush had been removed from the bank. She was concerned that there might be erosion. And there was nothing that could be done at that point in the pandemic since everything was closed down. And since then, Gail got back in touch with her and then talked to Jerry. Jerry replied that it's grown back in. It's actually denser than it was before. And so we think the erosion problem is taken care of by itself. Then we have a series of letters from the resident at 130 Beach. They cover a huge plethora of topics, many of them instructional, many of them not accurate, and a number of them just opinions about what we've been doing. Have you all been able to look at those, and do you have any questions or comments about them?
Where would I find them?
They are on that email that I sent you, that the third link was for the meeting.
Okay.
one of the others is to the attachments. One is to the agenda and one is to the attachments to the agenda. Also,
Okay.
are you
Are
receiving?
they from Liz Stone?
Hmm?
Are they from Liz Stone or,
No, she was one of the people who wrote asking where her tree was.
oh, I see.
These would be
Okay, now I see
attachments
606.
through 7A. Ones we're talking about. They're pretty long. There are 15 pages of them.
Oh my
So,
God.
Yeah. So, I mean, if you would like, you could look at them at your leisure. And if you have any comments, we could bring them up at the next meeting. Should we move on or do you
Yeah.
want to? Okay, let's move on.
Sure.
But if you have any responses to them, then please let me know and I'll put them on the next agenda.
Okay.
Let's see, 30543. Oh, next for old business, we have, there was at our last meeting, resident, there's background noise. There's someone, background noise going on? Okay. There was a resident at 305 4th Street who was asking to have a large, apparently healthy tree removed from, street tree removed from in front of his house because he felt that it might become a risk and he wanted to replace with a small flowering tree. Unless, I mean, the last I heard, it was inspected as a healthy tree and we don't remove large healthy tree or any kind of healthy tree without a good reason. But what I don't know is whether anyone responded to him. Dan, you were at the last meeting, weren't you?
I believe so. That was right after you, Nora, and I had reviewed the comments on the tree law.
Yeah. Anyway, did you respond? I didn't.
I did not, but I mean, my response would be exactly as you said,
Yeah.
unless there's some major compelling reason.
Yeah, I think what I'll do is I'll ask Tony to inspect it or ask Jerry, one of them, to take a look at it just to confirm that it's really healthy. It's and in my mind, I think someone had inspected it, but we probably should do that again. And then I'll respond if that's okay with you.
Sure.
Okay. Two tree maintenance issues. On 850 Palmer, I think this is from Joe. There was a large limb in the right of way across the street from 850 Palmer. I don't know whether I don't know whether this was removed or not, and I don't know if anyone knows that. That's my phone. I apologize being touched. So I'll ask Tony about that too. Ellen, Tony is the supervisor for the Department of Public Works. So he does a lot of inspecting with trees and arranging for removals and things like that. So he's a fairly key person when we talk about the trees.
Okay.
Okay, then I had sent in also comments about two trees across the street from each other at Creek. 404 and 407. I wonder if that was shot. Sorry, people. Both of which had broken and poorly pruned limbs, and and they have not been taken care of. So I'm just going to leave them on the list, and I'll follow up again.
Where is that? Where is Creek?
Creek is like a 1-2 block long street in Shore Acres, and it crosses the Parkway, 1 block on either side. And there are only about 4 houses on the whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
These 2 particular houses are between the Parkway and Shore Acres Drive.
Okay.
And the trees need pruning, Bev?
Well, what it is that one of them had a major limb broke off,
Oh,
and then it's been removed. It was, actually, it's the house for Michael Graham, who used to be on the committee.
okay.
He may have removed it himself because it disappeared, but it didn't look to me as if it had been pruned correctly. And I'd noticed several broken limbs on a tree directly across from that. These are both trees that we planted,
Mm-hmm.
and they were both doing really well. So, I'd like to keep them healthy. The one across the street had major limbs. I'm pretty sure the whole bunch took those off. But there are some large dead limbs that have been badly pruned, and I'd like to see them come off because the rest of the tree is very.
Okay.
So I'll follow up on that one. And then on 322 South Ferry, we received a request from a resident to have a dead tree removed. I attached a picture of it. I couldn't actually myself figure out, I go by there and I couldn't figure out what tree it was, so I'm not sure it's a street tree. So it's another open issue. Violations. Dan, do you know, there was a request to have a violation issued to 717 the Parkway. This is from last month, which was topped by residents. Do you know if there was a violation issue?
I don't know, but I'll check.
Thank you. And same question for 540 West Boston Post Road. This was on the agenda last month too. This is one of those apartment developments facing the harbor. And it's a whole row of trees that the developer clearly just cut off. Their honey locusts, which developers like to plant anyway because they're not very dense, and then they like to cut them off so you can see their gorgeous stems. But they're not supposed to be topped, and so I don't know whether a violation was issued there. So
Yeah, I'll follow up.
check
Okay.
on. Thank you. Fall planting. We actually had, I believe, 86 trees on the list, and the supplier, the nursery who planted last year and was not able to supply some of the species, again, is only able to supply, not able to supply several of the crab apples and the hawthorn. So we cut that list down to 66. And as Dan was saying earlier, we have another supplier from 2019 who will be the other trees, but I sent a reduced list over. It was pretty easy to do because I just cut out crab apples and hawthorns. And we talked about the fact that we do have someone for the remaining 20 trees. Also, something that came up, there were 4 trees planted. And in one of those, there were red buds that were not, they were planted in species that had been designated for tall trees. And since we have a hard time finding tall trees, we didn't want red buds growing in them. So Jerry used it as a training opportunity, actually, for, I believe it was Parks Department, and transplanted several of them, but in the beach, 626 beach planting strip, the root ball was too large to go in. I don't know whether that's going to be true of the trees that come, all the trees that come from the supplier for the small trees or not. And I'm a little bit worried about that. It might just be that it's one that was dug by the village as part of training, because we've planted in those strips in previous years. It was something, if Jerry had been here, I was gonna get his thoughts on that, but I guess I'll email him instead. I think I did email him. I'll ask him again. Asking these questions during a blizzard is not really very effective. Westchester County has offered us to plant new trees on county property, and the best site we found was around the water treatment plant. Dan, we talked about this last month.
Yeah.
And you said you were waiting, we put in our request, but you said you were, or we didn't put it in, but they were waiting for them to send you what, a map of the underground architecture, was that it?
Yeah, I've been trying to see if we have, about 10 years ago, we, entered into a temporary easement agreement with the county when they did work at the plant. I was trying to see if there's any sort of, survey showing what's under there. I wasn't able to find anything though, but, I've still been looking.
Okay, so that's still, does the county have anything, or is that who you couldn't find it with?
No, I couldn't find anything on our side. The county may have it.
Okay,
Well, the county should have something showing where their utilities are, but
yeah, I'm so worried about not getting those trees, but I'm guessing, actually Jerry's thought was that the county is too busy dealing with COVID to give us maps of underground architecture. Because I would really like those trees. They would really do a nice job of shading the people who are watching, you know, parents who are hanging out watching some of the fields. On Metro North, the trees that were removed along Bishop and Hoyt, I think they were either dead or dying. And we actually I got an email from the chairman of the Committee for the Environment, which is attachment 12, because they too had noticed that all those trees had been taken out. The village took them out. They're village trees, but it's Metro North property. I find this very complicated, but the village is willing to plant, is my understanding, but we need permission from Metro North. Is that the way it works?
yeah, I think the feedback may be coming from Marlene.
I
Oh,
don't think so. I'm just sitting here in the living room.
Maybe we should all mute ourselves except when we need to talk and see if that helps.
Yeah, I'll mute myself, but I don't think it's me. It just started suddenly.
Okay.
You want to answer, Dan?
So the question was about the Bishop. They need to provide us with a license agreement. I know Jerry's been going back and forth with them, but we need to agree in principle for planting and maintaining trees on their property. They're not gonna want anything that's gonna be grow too large. I think what they would want would be essentially arborvitae
yeah.
along that wall. Nothing that's gonna grow up to and above their the cantilever.
Wires. Yeah, I know they were threatening the wires previously. But didn't we have, I mean, if the trees that were there before were ours, didn't we have a license agreement previously?
I don't know that they were ours. I think they were on Metro North's. I think that property that they cut down was Metro North's property.
And they had planted them originally, whatever was there?
That's going back, probably 100 years. I mean, I don't know if they had the overhead catenary lines when those trees were originally planted.
Okay,
I mean, they've had probably an electric line since what, the 20s or 30s. It may date to, the age of those trees that were there may date to about the time that they, first introduced their electric service.
okay.
Just a thought on my end.
Back when anybody planted whatever they wanted anywhere. Anyway, I know that, I mean, this probably goes back 6 or 7 years, and they never seem to respond. But it's really unattractive for the residents on Hoyt. It's not a residential area, but it's still unattractive. So,
I have to, look at Hoyt. I don't know what you can really, I don't know if there's any, at least on Bishop, there's a curb and, a planting area. I don't know if you have that same opportunity on Hoyt. I think that's just a sheer face wall.
I
Right
thought
on
the trees were taken out on that side, though.
I don't think they were. I think it was just the Bishop side.
Oh, really? Because Gail, I haven't been over to look. Gail said that they would come out. Some would
I
come
mean,
out.
what I can do is probably look at the historic street view from 2010 on Google Earth,
Yeah.
because they'll have the street view dating back about 10 years, which would definitely cover the time frame when those trees were there in the first place.
Do you mean the trees on Hoyt?
We're talking about Hoyt right now.
They were
Were there-
removed. They were removed by Metro North
So
probably
there is a planting area.
6 weeks ago.
Okay, that's what
Oh.
you're talking about then. So there is a place to plant trees.
Oh, so that's probably at the top of the wall, not on the street.
Yes, and it's not our property.
Oh, no, I know, that's the whole thing is not our property. Bishop is not either.
Yeah.
So
That's,
it's the same situation. We have to get permission from Metro North to be able to plant there.
yeah. And we've been trying to get it for at least 6 years. I mean, Richard Slingerland was trying to get
Right,
it.
but this is a whole new, they denuded, they took down mature trees. Dan, I will look through pictures. We have some pictures of it.
But I know that they, ever since ESA, they've been really aggressive in trying to remove anything that could interfere with their lines. I've gotten both the town and the village got some emails from residents on Harmon Drive about that. So
I think my understanding of the conversations that have gone on is that we would happily plant arborvitae or whatever they think is right. We don't want to interfere with Metro North's lines either, but it's very unattractive for the residents, certainly on Bishop, and it would be nice to have Hoyt look green. There's very little there.
well,
So
listen,
anyway.
I know Jerry's been following up with MTA on this.
Okay.
I mean, the
Okay.
tree committee could write a letter in support of it. You could do that, but Jerry is following up.
Okay. You mean write a letter to Metro North or to write it to Jerry?
Let's talk to Jerry about it. Let's see.
Okay. Okay, because we could get one probably from the Committee for the Environment too, if it's to Metro North. Anyway, Joe is not on the call, I don't think. He had offered to do some research so that we could have guidelines that we would post as part of the new tree law, the new proposed tree law, on how to propose significant trees for the village. So we'll just have to let that hang until another month. Marlene, you wanted to talk about tree inventory ideas. Marlene?
If,
Okay, we'll come back. I also have a question. Dan, do you know this? Larchmont Nursery had offered to donate 4 cherries to Harbor Island Park. Oh,
Yeah.
Marlene, just a minute, we'll be right back to you.
I believe we got those, we accepted them. What was that, back in October, I think?
I think so.
Did we plant them?
I think the board adopted a resolution accepting the gift and, yeah. I
Oh,
know
so
they got some.
already in the ground. We were thinking we'd have some sort of publicity around it, but I guess that's too late. Okay, well,
These
better,
were the tiki trees that were planted?
yeah, the four cherries at Larchmont Nursery. I just thought that they might appreciate getting some sort of publicity and fuss about it.
Oh, okay, next time.
Yeah, next time.
Okay. Yeah, so getting back, I spoke with Jerry about the tree inventory project, which
Uh-huh.
had to be deferred because of COVID.
Yeah.
And he said that the high school students who he did the tree pruning workshop with are very, very desperate to get community service hours.
That's great.
And so they're gonna, he said there are 7 or 8 kids from the local schools who are going to take on the project.
Oh,
he said
great.
He'll train them around January, he said.
Okay.
And then he's going to, he said they're actually more comfortable working with spreadsheets and their iPhones
Yeah.
and just measuring trees than they are dealing with saws and tree pruning equipment. So he's
Okay.
confident that it'll be able to be done between March and the end of May, because you figure 7 or 8 kids times 100 hours each that they need. It's more than enough time for them to survey the whole village.
Wow.
Wow.
And he said that the Excel spreadsheet can be imported right into our iTree inventory.
Okay, that's great. March through what? They'll be able to do it? March through?
He said from early March through the end of May.
That's terrific. No, I remember that a whole bunch of them showed up for that workshop. And he had told them he would work with them privately to do some more work on pruning, but I think he's absolutely right. If they would do the inventory, it would be terrific. And it's a perfect community service project for a pandemic because it's outdoors,
Yeah.
socially
Definitely.
distant, and
He said you have the names of these kids.
they what?
He said you should have the names of the kids that attended
do.
the workshop.
I do.
Okay, good. Okay.
I do. I don't know if all, there were actually 4, 8, there were actually 10. I don't know, maybe some of them, he said 8 to you were interested in it?
He said 7 or 8, he thought were
Okay.
interested.
Okay, well, that's
And he
very
said
good.
particularly the kids from Rhinebeck and the French American School, because they have very strict requirements
Yeah, they do.
for hours.
Yeah, yeah. I didn't know about First American School, but
So one of the girls from Rhinebeck is a 9th grader, and she just finished her silver award. And and so she was there with one of her troop leaders. So I think that there might be even more kids who
Oh.
are interested in doing it. So
Okay, great.
so
they're very good workers.
should we have her get in touch with Jerry as well? I don't know that I have her name. She's different than the ones that I
Yeah,
had.
she lives in Melbourne. I can find that for you.
Okay. Okay. That's
Can I
true.
just ask a question? Who is Jerry? Because I don't see his
Oh,
name.
I apologize.
That's okay.
He's the village manager. And the really fortunate byproduct we got when he became the village manager is that he's also a tree arborist, a certified tree arborist.
Oh, terrific.
He's a fabulous, fabulous person to have on board for us. And he likes to go out and train people on trees and talk about trees and walk around with trees. He's also training employees at the Parks Department and arbor care, things that they've never had, and they seem to like it a lot. You know, he's shown them, I know he was out early one morning showing them how trees can be killed by the trimmers, which is a real problem here. It's not something we can control when there are trees in front of houses because that's done by the homeowners, but there's also, you know, a lot of parkland, you know, in the parks and on the parkway in front of my house, there's an esplanade which they maintain and regularly lose trees because they get chewed away by the trimmers. So that's good. He was teaching them about transplanting last week or 2 weeks ago when they moved those 4 red buds. And he's been training them in pruning too, which is really good because we have a group called Citizen Pruners, which is volunteers. That was a workshop we were just talking about, in which people, anyone from the village is welcome to come. We do it once or twice a year. Welcome to come and learning pruning techniques, and then are actually on the list that the village maintains, and we get vests so that we look official. And we have pruning tools, and we're the only people who are really supposed to be, only residents who are allowed to go out and prune the trees, the small trees, but we're not supposed to work on ladders. We're not supposed to use power tools. So the village employees actually have bigger tools and can reach higher. So it still can't do the very upper branches, but it's going to be really great for the village trees if we can start to maintain higher up. For example, the trees I talked about on Creek that were badly pruned and I think need to be pruned better. Those are things I can't reach from the ground, but I think they could be reached by like a village employee who has extended tools and things like that.
The pole saw.
Yes, the pole saw. I knew it had a name. So he's great, and he's really, by training them and also by training this workshop, he's really expanding our ability to take care of trees, which we haven't had at all in the village until recently. You know, the trees went in the ground and and it got pretty Darwinian after that. And people, if they're not properly pruned, they'll grow into the sidewalks, the branches will, or they'll grow into the street, and people get frustrated and will just break them off, or they'll come out and cut them in an improper way, which, just damages them and makes them susceptible to various pathogens that will eventually kill them. I mean, too early. So as we begin to get this core of tree stewards going, it's going to be much better for the village street trees and park trees. We have this forever question. Under other questions, we have pruning of larger elms. The elms that I'm referring to there are not the survivor elms that have not succumbed to Dutch elm disease. I'm referring to the elms that were planted maybe 6 to 10 years ago in the village, which are growing in a sort of chaotic way, and which have a tendency, some of them have a tendency just to drop major limbs in the summer. And they need to be pruned. They're difficult to prune because of the way they grow. And it hasn't been done. I still feel as if it should be done professionally or by someone that Jerry can supervise, but it's still an open item. It's going to stay on the agenda until it's a closed item. Anyone else have any questions for there? No, okay. I'm going to skip over the planning board part. We talked about this last month. We need to develop guidelines to give the planning board for when they approve site plans, but we have not had the time to do this. So we'll just keep it on the agenda until we come back to it, until someone can actually deal with it. For new business. Oh, I talked about this in my raving about my praises of how Jerry is providing arbor care training to the park staff. So I've already done that. Con Edison, I think did we talk about this at the last meeting or not? After the big loss of power last summer, this has been an ongoing thing. We've had Con Edison send reps to our meetings over the years. They always insist that they cannot bury the power lines because it's too expensive and they might have trouble if there's a loss of power, which doesn't make sense because all new developments have the lines underground. But meanwhile, they have a license. They basically are allowed to go out and do whatever pruning they want to keep the trees from interfering with power lines. And that just damages the large mature trees, which are the ones that we really need for all of the benefits you get from trees between flood control and air quality control and aesthetics. So I've discovered that they're told they can do this because power lines are regulated by New York State Commission. So we'd have to go to the state if we want to join in a lobbying effort to change this. I think there's a groundswell. People were so upset about the loss of power last summer. I was out for 8 days. And a lot of other residents that I've talked to are as well. I think it's possible that at this point we could perhaps start lobbying. We would need support from the village and from the county. I brought it up with Shelley Mayer when I was talking to her during the election, and she didn't give me the response I'd always had before, which is that it's too expensive. So, I mean, is there interest in the tree committee for joining in if this gets raised by other groups? You know, Con Ed has never provided any sort of cost projection on why they think it's too expensive to bury lines. Other municipalities have brought this up. There seemed to be, there's been no analysis that they've ever given us at any of the meetings about what the costs are over 30 years. It's a capital expense. What the costs are to bury the lines over 30 years, or what they've spent in the last 10 years of power losses, including the cost to residents who lose power for days, and a lot of people now are working at home. So are you all interested in being part of that if we can get it going? Hello? You're muted. I think.
I mean, yeah, I mean, I think what did it cost the village? Do we know what it cost the village when they buried the lines a few years ago?
So I think you're referring to when the village did Mamaroneck Avenue,
Yeah,
late 90s. I seem to recall, and I have to look at it and maybe I can look at the things. I think it added like $1 or $2 million to the overall cost. That one, that's just what I seem to recall, but I can look at the file. I think Steve Silverberg was the attorney at the time who negotiated that between the county and Con Ed.
yeah,
So
Yeah.
and wasn't that what it was done as part of the correct me if I'm wrong, beautification of Mamaroneck Avenue? So at the time, there was a lot of like roadway or sidewalks dug up, so the timing made sense.
Yeah, we had received grant money back at that time. It was CDBG money, Community Development Block Grant money, and that helped pay for the infrastructure improvements, which included the new sidewalks, new curbing, new
Mhm.
street trees, the tree grates. Everything you see on Mamaroneck Avenue now is a lot more attractive now than it was back then, from what I've
Mm.
heard.
Yeah,
Yeah, it really improves foot traffic.
yeah, it did.
Is that a capitalized cost?
In terms of when we did it, or when
When we did it.
well, it was yes, I mean it was grant money, and then the village borrowed the money to pay its share of the grant program.
Okay. Okay, so we need more. I mean, one suggestion that I've seen when I was looking at other municipalities was when road work is done, that's a perfect time to also bury the lines because
Right.
surfaces are open. And there is a lot of road work being done right now.
Yep.
Okay, so I mean, I know my neighborhood is interested in it, so we'll get more information. Okay, the last item I have is we want a spring tree walk. I liked the person who did the one in the fall. She was a friend of Dale's. I thought she was really good. Is there interest in asking her to do it again? She did it for a pretty minimal fee, I thought.
Jocelyn Kleinman?
Jocelyn,
Yeah. Yeah, why don't you see if she would do it again? She's amazing.
yeah. I mean, I learned a lot from her, and she had a very nice manner because I didn't feel that I was asking dumb questions. I asked questions. Okay, maybe I'll ask Gail, who couldn't be here tonight, if she could get some dates from Jocelyn, and then we could consider dates next time.
Okay.
The only other thing I have to bring up, Nora and I talked about the fact that for the next few months, the village has said that anything, no committee other than the land use boards can be meeting because of the budget cuts that have had to be put into effect. Thank you, Dan, for coming. But Nora, there was the exception made for people who have a Board of Trustees liaison, which we have with Nora. And Nora has said she is willing to start hosting the meetings. Am I explaining it correctly? Okay.
I will be the host of the meeting so that the staff person doesn't have to do it. And then if we have any information we want to convey to the staff, Beverly will just make sure, Beverly and I'll just make sure that the staff has that information. So we'll see how it goes.
Yeah.
I'm willing. I may not be able, but I'm willing.
Thanks, Nora.
Beverly, I'll email Jocelyn about the spring walk.
Oh, you know her
Tree walk.
too. That would be great.
Yeah,
Thank
I'll
you.
do that.
That would be wonderful.
And also, so Gail had wanted to switch days because this Thursday nights are very bad for her because of her new job. So I will figure out with Sally what days we can do it. Although I think for the 3 months, if I'm hosting, I think there may not be Zoom conflicts, but we'll figure out another date, and I'll figure out from Sally what are good dates, and then we can circulate it to the committee.
Do any of you have blackout days? I mean, is anyone busy every Monday, for example?
Mondays are not good because the Board of Trustees meets Monday.
Every
so-
Tuesday? I mean, does it, okay, so Mondays are out. So
Yeah.
does anyone else have blackout days?
Well,
Yeah.
no one would want to do a Friday.
Oh, no, Fridays are blackout automatically. I don't think that was even an option.
Mhm.
Okay, Nora, that would be
I'll
great.
work on that. Okay.
We'll get some dates and we can see it. Because we'll have to do that by email because the next meeting, I think, would be one that you would host.
Yeah, we'll do it. Yeah, we'll do it by email.
Okay, so we'll,
So
I'll-
next
I'll-
meeting scheduled to be TBD, right?
yeah.
Well, right now it's probably scheduled for for the fourth Thursday.
For the fourth Thursday, but not now because the next 3 months have been canceled and nobody was making any promises about the months after that. But it
Right.
will be the fourth Thursday of some month to come. Ellen, you're joining the committee just as they're trying to shut it down, but.
Yeah.
And I was just going to ask you, what would you recommend for me to get up to snuff as far as the history and how everything works and how you get, your requests and things?
We could send you a couple things. You could look at the minutes, which I believe are on the village website.
Mhm.
And in addition to that, if you would like, I could send you the agendas. I mean, they should match up fairly well, but there may be more detail in one than the other.
I'm just thinking of simple things like whatever you were talking about this evening, do people in the village bring it up? Do we bring it up? Like, how does?
It's a mix of things. By and large, we bring up most of it. We have an opportunity for residents in the village to attend if they want to make comments, although we have to limit that because otherwise we won't get through the agenda and restrict the amount of time. And then I also in the beginning, you notice I had correspondence, and that was people who have either emailed or telephoned with problems or questions. A few of the other items, like people wanting trees taken out because they don't like trees, I will put under business or maintenance or something, or people who have problems. But by and large, the tree committee is sort of the eyes looking at different issues. So, if you see trees that need evaluation or maintenance, you can let me know, and you should let the village know, but I'll include it on the agenda so we can follow up with it. Other issues that come up, which we brought in, I've added when I know about them, but if you know, for example, for the Metro North trees, I didn't know that started with correspondence from the people living on Bishop who were concerned because the trees have been taken out and now they're looking at a concrete wall. And then we also received correspondence from the Committee for the Environment. So that I didn't put into correspondence because it's really kind of a major issue,
Mhm.
which is getting trees planted there. So yes, anything that you as a committee member think is an important issue.
Yeah. One of the questions I had, I was very lucky to go on the leather stocking today for a little while.
Oh,
Who's responsible to maintain that?
I thought that was Larchmont or the town.
Town of Amerenik for most of it.
We're the village.
We're the village.
Okay.
Town of
Know how the
Amerenik.
municipalities work at all? Probably not. We're the village of Mamaroneck in the town of Rye, and that goes all the way over to the street of Richbell, which is where the McDonald's is on.
No.
Oh, no.
We are the village of Mamaroneck, and Beverly, you and I live in the town of Rye.
Oh, right.
Eileen and Wendy live in and Ellen live in the town of Mamaroneck.
Sorry.
So
Yeah,
the
that's
dividing line
Mamaroneck
between the
Ave.
two towns is the Mamaroneck River. So basically, the regatta, the village hall, that it's the river behind that. So
Mhm.
if you're on the Rye side of it, you're Rhinebeck, and if you're in the Mamaroneck side of it, to roughly Richbell Road area, you're in the town of Mamaroneck.
And the
Okay.
village-
We're the incorporated village of Mamaroneck within 2 towns, and then there's the unincorporated section of the town of Mamaroneck, which is a different government, and they maintain the leather stocking trail. And within the town of Mamaroneck completely is the village of Larchmont. So it's a little
Okay,
confusing.
okay.
It's a little
Thanks.
confusing. I'm happy to explain that offline if you'd like. So,
But you're saying the leather stocking is the town of Mamaroneck?
yes, and then
Yes.
information about that's on the town website. I think it's actually
Okay.
part of the Colonial Trail that goes even into.
Yeah, it's
Berwick and
part of the
Bridgeville and Pelham.
Colonial Greenway Trail, which
Yeah.
goes from Scarsdale to Village of Mamaroneck, Town of Mamaroneck, Larchmont, New Rochelle, back to
Right.
Scarsdale.
Right,
A lot of
okay.
it goes to Saxon Woods Park too.
Yeah. It's a nice little gem.
Yeah,
It is, it really is. There's some wonderful places. I mean, we're so fortunate living this close to New York City. We have that. Have you been to the Marshlands?
No, I haven't.
Oh, that's wonderful too. That's actually in Rye, but it's off the Boston Post Road. And it's, I don't know how many acres, but it's just beautiful. It goes down to the water and it's woodlands, undeveloped. We're just so lucky to have things like that.
Yeah, I think I passed it. I think I know where it is. Okay.
Sometime turn in, it's just it's a dirt track leading to a cinder parking space, and then there's some trails, and it's really nice. I don't know if they still have the county, it's owned by the county. And there used to be a day camp there that my son went to for several years, which
Well,
was,
I don't
Oh.
think I'm not sure, it didn't run this summer, but it's still in existence, yeah.
okay.
I
Really
had something I
special.
wanted to mention if I could, Beverly.
What?
I wanted to see if anybody else was interested in taking over the recording secretary role,
Uh,
because I've been doing it for 3
I
years.
I know.
and-
Gail did it before you. She was very good at it. She's co-chair now, but
Right.
maybe she would do double duty. I don't hear any volunteers from anyone else, and I.
Well, I could just sort of send the word out. Not everybody's at this meeting.
That's true. Why don't you send the word around?
Okay.
and you know, one of the benefits of Zoom is that, you know, we have both the video recording and we actually get a verbatim transcript. Not that I would recommend anyone ever go through a 100-page verbatim transcript where it picks up all the uhs and ums and
Yeah.
ahs and
I tried
Right.
that.
hear the words right.
I tried that for the first meeting after the pandemic because
Yeah.
because Gail thought there was a misunderstanding,
Yeah, we thought that we didn't have to take minutes because of that.
right? And it's really hard to decipher into minutes.
Yeah, I can
So,
imagine.
So we still need a recording secretary.
Yeah.
Okay, circulate it if you want, or do you want me to circulate it?
Either way, it's fine. If
Okay.
you want to do it, that's
Okay.
fine.
New recording secretary.
Okay.
Nora, are you sure we have all our seats filled? I thought we actually had 7 seats. Maybe we could find someone who loves to be a recording secretary. It's a horrible job. I hate that job.
It's not that bad.
yeah,
It's just
no,
3
it's
years is
1,
enough.
2, 3, 4. So the members are Gail, Beverly, Joe, Wendy, Sean, Ellen, and Marlene. So that's
Oh,
7
it is
members.
7. Okay.
Oh, you know what I wanted to ask, the oath, do I have to have that notarized?
Yes,
Yes.
apparently.
And
Okay.
you can do it, you can call Sally because Sally, so if you don't have a notary that's convenient for you, you can FaceTime with Sally in Village Hall,
Okay, thank you.
Sally Roberts, who sent it, the person who sent it to you.
Right.
Any more? Okay. So, I mean, I have down that our next meeting is supposed to be January 15th, but we're going to change that. And we'll do-
January what? I thought it was different in, at the end of,
Well, on the agenda, I say January 16th. But
yeah,
now we've talked about changing it, so ignore January 16th.
okay.
Okay, we will circulate by email. We'll figure out what date to get Nora's
Okay.
some dates. Days of weeks and dates. So, okay. May I have a motion to adjourn? Is that right, Dan?
If you want to take a motion to adjourn, that's, all you need is a second and a vote.
Okay, we have a motion. Okay, Wendy motion.
Second,
Oh,
my second.
any opposed?
Nope.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Dan.
Thanks, Beverly.
Yeah,
Bye-bye.
Nice
Nora,
to
your
meet
hair
you
looks cute.
all.
yeah,
Nice
great.
to meet
Thank
you.
you so much for doing this.